Picture this: you're in the ER, but not as a visitor, but as a patient. You're unconscious, machines are beeping, your spouse is saying one thing, your adult child is saying another, your siblings yelling at the door. This isn't what they want. And the doctor, they're staring at three different people, all insisting that they know what you would say, and you can't say anything at all. This is where one document, a medical power of attorney, also called a healthcare power of attorney, can literally be the difference between clarity and chaos. In this video, I'm going to break down the medical power of attorney in plain English, what it is, what it isn't, and how it works with your other documents, and how to choose the right person without blowing up your family. Welcome back to Grow, Plan, Live. This is video number 2 in our 5 critical document series. At the channel, I share what I learned from helping my family members draft their own life plans to make your life as easy as possible so you can hopefully avoid some of the pitfalls that we've come across. In video number 1, we talked about financial power of attorney, the document that keeps your money and your life running when you can't. And today, again, we'll be talking about healthcare and medical power of attorney, the document that answers one huge question: if I can't speak for myself on medical care, who speaks for me? So, what is medical power of attorney? It's in plain English, a document where you can choose someone, you'll call that person your agent or your healthcare proxy to make medical decisions for you if you can't make them for yourself. This is about your body, your treatment, and your care when you're unable to speak, understand, or communicate your wishes. The medical power of attorney can include decisions like approving or refusing certain treatments or surgeries, choosing hospitals, rehab, or long term care facilities, deciding about tests, medications, or mental health treatment, and working with your doctors on what quality of life looks like for you. Here's a big point. As long as you can make your own decisions and communicate them, you can be in charge. But your medical power of attorney doesn't have to override that. It's there for you when you can't make these decisions. Although there are cases, and I'll talk about that later, when people who are not incapacitated could use them. But this is for you when you're unconscious, heavily sedated, confused, or medically unable to make informed decisions. Think of the MPOA as you saying, if I'm ever in a situation where I cannot speak or make decisions, this is the person or group of people I trust to use my values, beliefs, and my wishes to guide my care. Now, here's where a lot of people get tangled and overwhelmed. I've heard of a living will, a healthcare directive, a DNR, the do not resuscitate, and HIPAA forms. And here's the medical power of attorney. So, how do these all fit together? Is it just one document, the same thing with a bunch of different names? So, let's talk about a few of these in plain English. The financial power of attorney, as we mentioned on video 1, focuses on your money, your bills, your bank accounts, your business, your investments, your taxes. Medical healthcare power of attorney is about who makes decisions if you can't. And then the healthcare directive, also called a living will or an advance directive, it's more of specific written instructions, more tailored to end of life care. It tailors more toward that DNR part and like feeding tubes and things of that nature. So it's even more specific, more on an end of life situation. You could use a medical power of attorney all day. You may never need the healthcare directive unless something catastrophic happens. So that's why the healthcare directive is actually going to be covered in a separate video in this 5-part series. So you think of it as your medical power of attorney is like a person holding a manual. The healthcare directive is like an instruction manual for very specific end of life things, and the medical power of attorney is someone holding that manual and dealing with whatever that manual does not cover. The medical power of attorney and the healthcare directive, which is also called a living will, they work together. And just like the financial power of attorney is for living people, the medical power of attorney is also for the living. This is about what happens while you're alive, but for whatever reason, someone else is having to make a decision for you. It's not about your death. After death, things like wills and trusts take over, but these medical power of attorneys are for when you're alive. Let's talk about some myths that can be dangerous and some things that people say sometimes that can trip people up. The first one is people say, "I'm married, my spouse automatically decides everything." In many cases, that spouse will be the default person, but that's not always clear cut. If you've got other people involved, if you've got adult children, you've got parents, if some kind of someone else that has a close relationship with you stepped in, those laws can vary by state, and that can complicate the decisions being made, especially if people are not agreeing. And that's where it gets stuck with the doctors and in healthcare facilities because they're like, wait a minute, like you all need to get on the same page. And then a clear MPOA, medical power of attorney, says, this is the person I choose. Listen to what they say. The second myth, I'm young, I'm healthy, I'll do this when I'm older. Okay, we watch the news, you hear about things in the media, social media. Every emergency room doctor and every ICU nurse can tell you young, healthy people get into car accidents. They're victims, unfortunately, of catastrophic violence, unfortunately, that has risen in this country in the last 15 to 20 years. Young, healthy people have strokes. They have reactions to anesthesia. They have sudden illnesses that are unexplained. So you don't get an appointment for an emergency. So there's no reason to wait until you're a certain age to do this. I mean, you do this as soon as you can. The third myth, I don't have much, so I don't need an estate plan. Okay, the medical power of attorney is not about how much money you have. You can have $1 million, you can have $15. This document is about your body, your care, and your dignity. Estate planning is not just who gets what when I die. It's also what happens if I'm alive, but I can't speak for myself financially or medically. And then there's this one that I hear a lot, and it's honest. It's I don't trust anyone enough to make medical decisions for me. If that's you, you're not weird. You might have complicated family dynamics or financial dynamics, and you might have had bad experiences with the healthcare system. You might be afraid someone will push you into something you don't want. And we'll talk a little bit about how to think through who you choose so your agent isn't guessing and the doctors aren't ignoring your wishes. So let's ground our chat in a few real life situations that might hit close to home. In our first scenario, we've got some new parents that are possibly in some type of crisis. Imagine you're a new parent, you and your partner finally get a night out. On the way home, there's a car accident. You're alive, but you're unconscious. Your partner's awake, but they're injured. The doctors need to make fast decisions about surgery and or treatment. There are parents on both sides, siblings, maybe a very opinionated in law who knows best. But with the medical power of attorney, you're already saying in writing, this is the person who has the final say for my care if I can't make decisions. That clarity in the middle of chaos is a gift, not just to you, but to your partner and to your baby. It also connects directly to your other planning. If something catastrophic happened to both of you, you'd want guardianship and other pieces in place. But your first line of protection is someone who can advocate for you in the hospital right now. Our second scenario is someone they're single, they're in their 40s, and they feel like I don't have a lot of stuff. But if this is the case, maybe they're dating, maybe they're very private, they may have rent, a job, some savings, and maybe even a 401k or IRA. This person may think, I don't own a house. I don't have kids. I don't have much. Why would I need something like this? Then they have a medical emergency. So, what are the doctors supposed to do? Who are they supposed to listen to? Let's say they're estranged from their parents. Are they supposed to go to that estranged parent and listen to? Are they supposed to go to siblings and take their word for it? It's if there's a close friend or a partner that you love, but you're not legally married to, is that, there's often no legal standing there. So how would they know to listen to them? So with the healthcare power of attorney, you can say, this person, my best friend, my partner, my sibling is my decision maker if I can't speak. This is especially important for people whose emotional family is not the same group of people as their legal family. And another scenario, the favorite blended family. And this is where things really get real. There's a second marriage, there's adult children from the first marriage, maybe younger kids from the second marriage, and maybe siblings who have opinions with a capital O. You get seriously ill, you're in the hospital, and your current spouse says, I know what they want. We've talked about this. And you're going to assume that, that's going to take precedent and that's going to be what the doctor does. It may be and it may not be. Again, keep in mind that state rules can vary with these different things. And then let's say your adult children from your first marriage speak up and say, that's not what mom or dad would have wanted while you're there incapacitated. Another sibling chimes in and says, we're not going to give up. Do everything you can. I don't care what it costs or what anyone said before. And now the medical team is caught in the middle of this drama and you're not even conscious. So a clear, up to date medical power of attorney paired with a healthcare directive can name the person you wish to be your voice as your voice, give guidance about your wishes, and reduce the space for fighting and second guessing. Notice I said reduce, can't guarantee that it will eliminate, but reduce the space for fighting and second guessing. And would it magically erase all conflict? Nope. Just like I just said, humans are humans. But it gives doctors a clear and legal, ethical anchor and to say, this is my agent, this is the guidance that they have, and this is who we follow. Okay, so if your brain's already going, I'm overwhelmed, I don't know where to start, I want you to know that feeling is absolutely normal. Estate planning is full of jargon. You see terms like durable, springing, attorney in fact, and you think, I need a law degree just to even start working on a document. And that's exactly why I created my digital product, the Life Legacy List. The Life Legacy List is more than 100 pages. It's a checklist and an organizer that helps you understand what information matters for your estate plan. I define terms at the very beginning to outlay in plain English what different things mean so you'll know as you go through your documents. You can centralize your important details in one place. Get organized before you meet with an attorney so you're not wasting billable hours trying to remember account names because that's true. If you go to an attorney's session and you don't have things lined out, the clock's running. It's going to save you money because you get there and say, look, these are all my accounts, these are my children, these are the other people that I want on my paperwork. It's really going to cut to the chase and you won't be paying for as many billable hours. It's also going to help you if someone accessed the life legacy list that you have. It would tell people exactly which bills you pay, how often you pay those bills, who your per healthcare provider and childcare providers are, and who to call in an emergency. All that's included. It's something that's PDF fillable. So if you want to do a digital copy, password protect it and store it locally. Once again, just make sure someone knows you've got it. Or if you just want to old school, print it out. You can print it out and fill it out by hand and just make sure you tell someone where it is. It's designed specifically for U.S. adults who are new to estate planning and want plain English and are not looking for legalese. So it's linked down in the description. Just check it out. And because this is a brand new product that I'm launching, I'm running a bump sale for a limited time. So just to explain a bump sale, when you do a bump sale, you take something that's worth normally hundreds or sometimes even thousands of dollars and you offer it at a deep discount. For my bump sale, the price starts at $1 and it's going to go up as a dollar with each purchase. So as the earlier buyers get there, they get the absolute lower prices, and if you click the link in the description, the price is higher than a dollar. That means somebody else has already grabbed it, but it's still deeply discounted. So grab it while you can. And again, the checklist is not legal advice. It's not a substitute for your documents, but it will help you get clear, organized, and walk you into those conversations with way more confidence. Also, I give you the questions to ask, when I have this asset, my vehicle, how do I get that moved so it will be in the right place? So if I pass away, it automatically transfer to beneficiaries. I give you the questions to ask, the offices to go ask them at, things of that nature, very specific. In those are one over 100 pages. I did a lot of work on this. So I really was thinking about most something that would fit most US people in the US that were over 35 that would have to check on something like this. So now let's keep on going because I want to show you how financial power of attorney actually works under the hood. Let's look at key decisions you'll have to make when you create a medical or healthcare power of attorney. The first decision is determining who will be your healthcare agent. This is the person who will talk to doctors, sign consent forms, and make decisions if you can. So you're not just picking the person you love the most, you're picking the person who is able to stay calm under pressure, who's willing to ask questions and push back kindly if they need to, someone that's respectful of your values, even if they don't always fully agree with you, and someone that's strong enough to say no to other family members who may disagree. Again, for some people, that's a spouse. For others, it's an adult child, a sibling, a close friend, or someone outside the family. If you're in a blended family, this can be sensitive. Your current spouse may assume they'll be in charge. Adult children may assume they'll be in charge, and brothers and sisters may have strong opinions. Here's a mindset shift that might help. Your healthcare agent is not a favorite child award, it's a job. It could mean your life on the line. So you're allowed to choose the person that's best suited for that job. Think about your health and your well being first in this scenario. The second decision is determining what powers that person or group of people have. The healthcare POAs usually spell out what your agent can do. In broad strokes, they may be able to consent to or refuse medical treatments and procedures, access your medical information and your records. That's often tied to HIPAA language. They may be able to choose to move you between hospitals, rehab facilities, or nursing homes, and make decisions about mental health or long term care. One big fear people have is, what if I make the wrong choice? Or they let me die sooner than I want? Or they keep me alive longer than I want? And that's where that healthcare directive and living will comes in that we'll cover in an upcoming video in more detail. That document's going to give more detail on life support, feeding tools, tubes, pain control, and what quality of life means to you. Your MPOA agent doesn't just get a blank check. They get your instructions and your trust of them. And once again, we'll cover that healthcare directive more of how you want to set the guidelines for feeding tubes and things of that nature. The third thing you want to think about is, when does that MPOA take effect? On the previous video, we went into detail about springing, durable, non durable. If you haven't seen that, please go back and watch the first video. But in most cases on the medical or healthcare POA, it normally kicks in when you're deemed incapacitated, that you can't understand information or you can't communicate decisions. Some forms may allow your agent to access information or talk to doctors now, even while you're healthy, but they'll only make decisions when you can't. This could be practical. For example, a spouse calling the doctor or an adult child managing care for an aging patient or an aging parent. But again, you need to understand the form you're signing and follow your state's rules, which is a great reason to talk to a licensed legal professional if things feel complex to you at all. In my own family, we have medical power of attorney for people who are legally disabled. And so trusted family members can make decisions for them. And we've used it multiple times, including when we need to speak to some of these major insurance carriers like Medicare, Humana on someone's behalf. We've had to actually use that documentation. For dental care, we've had to use it in order to speak to the dentist about care for that person also. So we've definitely used it multiple times and it's really come in handy. Even though they're not fully incapacitated, we've needed to assist them in making decisions, and it's been extremely helpful. The last thing to think about is backup agents and co-agents. You think about, what if your chosen agent can't serve? Your MPOA should ideally name one primary healthcare agent and one or more backup agents. And in addition to doing the one or more backup agents, you could consider maybe, thinking about co-agents. The good thing about having a primary agent and those backup agents is, if your first choice is unavailable, unwilling, or passes away before you, someone else is already on the paperwork. They can legally step in without the court having to step in. And then with the co-agent, those two people have to decide together and work together. That can create checks and balances, but it can also create conflict and delay in emergencies. So you have to kind of consider that. In a life and death situation, doctors don't have time to play referee between two co agents who disagree. So, this is a good topic to talk to an attorney about, or a licensed legal professional about. If you have a high conflict family, if you're trying to keep it fair among siblings, or you're not sure whether to choose a spouse versus an adult child, sometimes it's better to get that extra person, that person that's basically, that's their job and they don't have any emotions in it. They sometimes can help you narrow down who may be a good selection. And let's look at the flip side, not to scare you, but to help you be smart and prepared. The first scenario would be conflict in an ICU. Let's say the family's in ICU, and someone's there because their family member's there. And if there's not a clear MPOA, the doctors may default to whatever your state's next of kin rules are. Multiple people may feel they should have an equal say, and those old wounds and their resentment shows up fast. You hear about stories where one child wants everything done no matter what. Another child wants to honor what mom said or dad said they wanted, and the spouse is stuck in the middle. So, with no MPOA and no written directive, the doctors are stuck, your family's fighting, and the emotional damage can last for years. No document can erase grief, but a clear MPOA with a clear agent can reduce the chaos. Another issue that could come up: we did the form, but no one told the hospital. This is another common thing. People do the paperwork, they don't tell anyone, or they do the paperwork, they tell someone, and no one knows where the paper is. Also, sometimes the agent doesn't even know they've been named your agent in the paperwork. You want to always make sure you do that, or the hospital has nothing on file for you. Now, of course, if something catastrophic happens, you have the document. If it's done properly, you should be able to present that document. Whoever your trusted family member is, they should be able to present it at that time if it's not on file. But you've got to have it. You've got to have the document on done properly. With all the notarized signatures and all everything you need. Then you've got to. The person has to know where to locate that document so they can know that they can take it to the hospital. So there's a lot of different things that need to be done up front. Because in a crisis, people get confused, and if they knew where something was, they could forget. So the MPOA is only as useful as your family's ability to find it and to use it. And that's one of the reasons I built the Life Legacy List, because it gives you a place to notate where your MPOA and your healthcare directives are stored. You can complete it both digitally or manually and print it out. And then you can tell people who your agents, who your backups are, who is your preferred doctor, who's what preferred hospital, what preferred pharmacy. This is going to save a lot of time. If someone had to come in, and like I said, some people may not have much surviving family, or maybe they're not close to family. What if you got a neighbor that had literally, I've known this has happened. I've heard about this recently a lot. People literally, their neighbors checking on them and finding them, and they're like, sometimes they may be passed out on the floor, they fell, they were elderly and couldn't get up, things like that. In a situation like that, if someone knew where that document was, they would say, okay, this is this person's doctor. This is if you're in a larger city where there's multiple hospitals, this is where we need to go. They're not just kind of, guessing, calling, they're going to call 911, but at least you can give them some direction when the emergency crew arrives. So you don't want people, tearing your house apart looking for that one paper when they're already under stress. You want that information in one centralized place, and the Life Legacy List can help you do that. And the last problem we want to look at is DIY disasters and state rules. Let's talk about the DIY for a second. A lot of states offer free or low cost power of attorney forms. And for simple situations, it might be something good to help you get started. But always bear in mind that you must follow the instructions exactly in line with your state's rules and laws. Where people can get into trouble is they use a form from the wrong state, they download a random template that doesn't meet state requirements. They don't get the right signatures or witnesses. They never check if their doctor or hospital will accept the form. And the tough part, you usually don't find out there's a problem until there's an actual emergency. That's why I often say try as much as you can to use checklists and organizers to get ready on your own. And then when things are complex or high stakes, talk to a professional in your state. You can always actually, if you wanted to work on something, you could actually ask the licensed legal professional, will you look at this document? Is it up to par? Is it in line with my state's laws? And if you have a preferred healthcare facility, you can always check with their business office on what forms they accept to see if you can put directions and forms on file in advance in case something happens. Here's your 24-hour action plan. In the next 24 hours, what I want you to do is to ask yourself, if I couldn't handle my own money tomorrow, who would I actually trust to step in? Second thing I want you to do is to write down that name and then write down one or two backup names. The last thing I want you to do is to make a note of your main bank, your retirement account providers, and any big assets like a home or business. Again, you don't have to do this from scratch if you're feeling overwhelmed or unsure of what else you should be tracking, or you just have little to no idea of where to start. This is exactly where the Life Legacy List comes in. It's a 100+ page checklist and organizer that helps you figure out what you have, gather it in one place. It'll help you determine maybe if you need something else. If you look and say, hey, I've got these life insurance policies, but I really didn't have as much life insurance as I think I need, and that's a whole other video I'll be doing on how to estimate how much life insurance you might need. You can get everything ready in one place for a real conversation with an attorney if and when you're ready. Again, it's not a replacement for a will, trust, or power of attorney, but the Life Legacy List is your roadmap, your checklist, and your prep work. And again, doing the bump sale for $1, it increases by $1 with each purchase. So the sooner you grab it, the less you pay. The bump sale may or may not still be active depending on when you watch this video. If you click the link in the description, you'll see today's price and lock in your copy. Even if you're just estate planning curious, this will walk you through things step by step in plain English. Okay, so today we learned that the medical healthcare power of attorney is about who speaks for you when you can't. It's different from your financial power of attorney and your healthcare directive. And we also learned that it matters whether you're married, single, a new parent, or in a blended family. And picking the right agent is about choosing the right person for the job, not just the person you love the most. This is document 2 in the 5 critical documents series. If you found this helpful, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications if you don't want to miss the rest of this series. Next up is wills. We'll find out why your auntie ended up in probate court fighting for your grandmother's property when you had a valid will in place. Why is she still fighting for the house and it's been 3 years? Is Jesus coming back before y'all get your grandmother's house? This is going to be a good one. So hit the notification bell so you know exactly when the wheel video drops. And thanks for watching. See you next time.